Moving countries can be one of the most exciting and most challenging things you'll ever do. And we're here to take one big worry off your plate: your taxes. At Expat Taxes, we understand the complexities of Irish tax from your perspective as an expat and tailor our advice to your needs. With decades of expertise, our team at Expat Taxes will help you navigate tax residency, cross-border taxation, reliefs and returns, and will work with your country's tax advisor to make sure your taxes are sorted. Whether you're an individual or a corporation coming from Australia, the United States, the UK, or anywhere in the world, we want to help you. So visit us at expattaxes.ie to book a consultation today, and let's make moving to Ireland easier together. Quick note before we get started. Unfortunately, there were a few microphone issues that unexpectedly arose during recording that means the guest's audio isn't up to our usual standard, and we ask your forgiveness there. But this episode covers some incredibly important stuff, so stick with us.
Welcome to Taxbytes For Expats, the top tax tips you want to know as an expat. The podcast is here to help answer the common queries and concerns expats have when moving to or from Ireland. Complex taxes explained simply. We'll focus on the Irish and international tax issues to be aware of to ensure you save time, money, and stress.
This is part 2 of Stephanie Wickham's conversation with Lisa Quinn O'Flaherty, a solicitor at Fitzsimons and Redmond LLP. If you haven't listened to part 1 yet, make sure you check it out before jumping into this episode. In this part 2, you will hear more about the intricacies of setting up your will in Ireland, the necessity of having a will in other jurisdictions as well, and the benefits of having an excellent legal advisor to help keep your affairs in order. Now, as with the last episode, lots of important tips for expats and repats from Lisa. Enjoy.
And will Irish probate, so in other words, the grant of probate would issue, notwithstanding the fact, if it hasn't completed in the UK, the Irish beneficiaries or the beneficiaries on the Irish will can still get what they're entitled to. Is that a correct understanding? There isn't a contingent if there's a dual probate process in play?
No. The Irish executor should be able to administer the estate of what falls under the Irish will.
So there's another reason to have two wills, isn't there? Like, in other words, it is another reason to kind of simplify matters by segregating the complexity on one jurisdiction.
Yes. And sometimes you might want to appoint an executor. And most people will appoint their spouse as executor, but sometimes it's sensible to appoint an executor in each jurisdiction. So if you have a trusted person on the ground, it can make it quicker. In Irish probate anyway, it's all wet ink signatures, so it's not always ideal to be waiting for someone to fly over to sign a document.
So say that again. Are you saying that you cannot digitally sign a document for an Irish probate?
No, you can't. No, you are wet ink signing it.
It's only 2025. I mean, why would we expect digital signatures?
Yeah.
That is what it is. And okay, that's useful. So
now we can do a little bit of complex notarizing things from abroad, but
no, and yeah, that's...
I don't like to complicate things sending them into the probate office. I think we send them in as straightforward as we can. I would encourage people to sign them in our office.
And what's the kind of current turnaround time when something goes in for kind of completion?
So 6 to 8 months.
Yeah, it's long.
That's if there's no queries. Now, when you've got international matters, there will often be queries. Far more likely that it will be sent back to us as a solicitor with kind of questions that the probate office have, whether that's about the other will, or whether there's been grants in other jurisdictions. I would kind of give an estimate to expect a year just to allow for those queries and to allow for the gathering up of paperwork.
And one of the things we've seen, I don't know how frequently you've seen it, we're working with a few solicitors at the moment where, perhaps the individual hasn't been aware or complied with their tax obligations, sometimes because they don't understand that, they've been paying tax in one jurisdiction. How frequently do you see that, and what is that something you've come across?
I've come across it not very often.
can cause problems.
Huge problems. In that it all has to be rectified before you can do anything. And if you don't have a huge estate, it can really eat into it.
Yeah.
So even if you do have a huge estate, it could eat into it.
And the understanding I have, it's not something that we do, but we have worked with solicitors who do, is essentially there's a process where there's a declaration that everything is in order before you can move to the stage of the grant of probate. In other words,
Yeah.
somebody has to say, this is all as it should be.
And that's that person taking individual responsibility to revenue, the most powerful authority in the land.
So, two things that come from this, to summarize what we've said this far, is, firstly, if you're buying a house in Ireland, don't expect the process to be as you would like it to be in terms of how long it takes, but hopefully that's not the case. The second point would be the value of an Irish will for Irish assets, which broadly will include, Irish situate property being bricks and mortar in Ireland, and can extend beyond that to other assets. I might come back to that in a second in terms of your recommendation in that regard. And then the third point would be, it's a kindness to keep your tax affairs in order for the next generation so that they don't have to deal with it when the time comes. On the point I just touched on there, what would you say around, other assets that you would generally see passing under an Irish will, excluding Irish real property?
Yeah, so the main one is bank accounts.
Mm-hmm.
And then, occasionally shares, things like that. Among older people, it can often be cash in a safe in the house is a big one.
Wow. Okay.
Artwork, jewelry, things like that. So they're the main things.
And from a tax perspective, this is probably where a review of the will is warranted as well, because my comment there would be, depending on the domicile of the disponer and where the asset is situate, whether we have a treaty with the foreign jurisdiction, take something like artwork, we would look at it and go, well, is it more efficient to pass it under an Irish will? If the artwork is not physically in Ireland in particular, that question definitely warrants consideration. So,
and that's it. It's where is it most advantageous? Especially, with the US, there's a fantastic tax treaty if it's used properly. But it's
amazing.
complicated. So it's the using it properly and the planning for it that is difficult, but worth it.
The high level comment you'd have at this point being, what are we looking at here? Well, the Irish tax rate, 33%. You know what I mean? Like that's what you're looking at saving. And of course, we have a threshold of €400,000, thankfully, in the most recent Finance Act.
Yes.
Between parent to child. But, if you've got a valuable Irish family home to leave to the next generation, it doesn't take long for that threshold to be eroded based on current property values.
Exactly. If you have, if you only have one child or a particularly valuable house, they're very easily into the tax bracket.
Lisa, what does working with you look like? If clients listen to this and kind of what they're hearing resonates, what's the best thing for them to do if they want to work with you, or arguably what does working with a sister in Ireland generally look like?
Yeah, I suppose, oh gosh, I imagine every office is very different. But for us, clients or potential clients can email me directly. My email is lisa@fitzsimonsredmond.ie. And I'm happy to have set up a call with them. I said I'd offer a free first consultation to any of your listeners if they mention the Taxbytes podcast.
Thank you.
Then, a lot of work can be done by, a couple of Zoom calls, a couple of phone calls, and then emails back and forward. And then it's flurries of activity. Most legal work tends to go, I'm all over you for a week and then you don't hear from me for 2 or 3 weeks.
Do wills have to be, are they wet signatures, or can wills be signed digitally?
Wet signatures, with 2 witnesses.
Okay. And can a spouse be one of those signatories, and can you?
A beneficiary to the will cannot be one of the signatories.
Okay.
I have a policy where, at all possible, we will get clients to sign wills in our office.
Right.
So that we make sure that the witnesses are in order. That they're over 18. We have contact details for them. The reason for that being, if there's any question over the will, the witnesses may have to do an affidavit just to set out, it's a handwritten will, the reason for this was, or The signature doesn't look like his normal signature because he was unwell, something like that. So, that affidavit may not be needed for 20, 30, 40 years. So
Yeah.
as far as possible, we try and know who the witnesses to the will are, a partner in our firm, so that will be contactable if at all possible when that time comes if needed.
This is morbid, but I think it's an important question. In terms of what is set out in a will, when do you generally recommend that the family members, the bereaved, contact the solicitor? How soon should they make contact?
I don't think there's any kind of set timeline on it. Some families will call as a matter of course when someone has passed away, and we can get started on it straight away. It depends, often if someone's not, someone will wait until they're selling a property and they actually need access to the grant of probate to do that. It really depends how quickly they need access to the assets or how efficient they are.
So is that to say then, like in American movies where there's a scene where there's like a reading of the will, does that happen in practice?
We've never done it. So it's disappointing. I'm sure it could happen. Yes, absolutely. But far more likely, it's more like, the beneficiary will, or the spouse or a child or several of the children will pop into the office or will phone and it'll be read out over the phone, or I'll pull it out of our wills cabinet and show it to them there and then.
Yeah.
So it's I've never had anyone kind of shocked by the contents of a will either.
So we shouldn't believe everything we see on Netflix. I think that's the key point there.
For sure.
And look, it's nice. It's nice to be able to smile about it because it is actually a difficult topic. I find it difficult to talk to clients about, and I think it's really important that people work with someone who, I suppose, understands both the importance of everything being done efficiently, but also, I suppose, the empathy and the kind of the difficult period. As I go back to my first point, often people in Ireland work with sisters during quite stressful and key life events. And it's quite important to partner with somebody who understands that, things being done efficiently and accurately really can go a long way. And with empathy can actually help reduce the stress at that time. It matters, doesn't it?
And if at all possible, have this done at an early stage, as a matter of course. When you're buying a new asset, when you're making a change in your life, that's the time to look at your estate planning. It is so much harder for clients when we're going in making wills in hospitals with them, or where they've just had bad news and they're coming in to get their affairs in order. Of course, we'll deal with them and do all we can, but it's a lot harder for them. And
Yeah.
sometimes you just look at them and say, I wish you didn't have to go through this.
Yeah, at this point, agree. And I am currently working on a case where, because the affairs were complicated, and the probate was to be granted in the UK, the probate process is going on for 6 years because a lot of the documents that were drafted were done DIY style.
Oh no.
Without legal review. Some were binding, some were non-binding. And I was speaking to the sister in the UK last week, and basically the message was, this has just become an absolute nightmare. So, the person who has left the assets no longer has to think about it, thankfully.
It's their loved ones that are left with that. And it's so easy to make a mess of it these days. I mean, you can go into ChatGPT and say, draft me a will. And that's terrifying because
I know.
Where is that information being pulled from? Is it specific to Irish law? It's most certainly not specific to your own tax situation and personal situations. So, I mean, I think this is one thing where it doesn't cost a lot of money, and it's worth just investing, that small amount of money to get it right and give that peace of mind to your loved ones.
And also it's January, so we all have a little bit of a burst of enthusiasm, don't we, at this time of the year? I know I was talking to you, I must actually send you back my documents to do my own will. So this is a case of, it's easy to preach that we should do it. It's perhaps put it into practice is harder. Lisa, thank you so much for taking the time to join us. I found this informative. We help clients navigate the tax side, but generally a legal professional and a tax advisor will work quite closely together. And often, it's our job to ask each other questions, isn't it? To kind of learn how to best support the client.
And learning from each other. Yeah.
Definitely. Thank you so much. You've given your email there and it will be in the show notes. So if anyone has any queries for Lisa, please do drop her a note and mention the podcast. And yeah, I'm sure we will have you back on again in future. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much, Stephanie, for having me. I've really enjoyed this. It's been a lovely chat.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to Taxbytes for Expats. Please do leave a rating or review wherever you listen to your podcast. And as always, remember to take professional tax advice specific to your personal circumstances before acting or refraining from action in connection with the matters dealt with in this series. The material in this podcast is intended to give general guidance only.